feathers in a Seuss head, and began yanking hairs out of poor Thidwick's head, and he plucked out exactly 204. Don't worry, he laughed, you can always grow more. Then he dozed off to sleep in his fine moose hair nest. This bird, murmured Thidwick, is sort of a pest, but I'm a good sport, so I'll just let him rest, for a host above all must be nice to his guest. Besides, now it's getting quite late in the day, and surely tomorrow they'll all go away. But alas, the next morning the sun's early light brought Thidwick's sad eyes a most unwelcome sight. Meet my wife, said the bird, I was married last night, and perhaps by the way I should mention to you that her uncle is coming to live with us too. You're a very fine host, so I knew you'd be willing. Then the uncle, a woodpecker, started in drilling. All Thidwick's friends shouted, get rid of those pests. I would, but I can't, sobbed poor Thidwick, they're guests. Guests indeed, his friends answered, and all of them frowned. If those are your guests, we don't want you around. You can't stay with us, 'cause you're just not our sort. And they all turned their backs and walked off with a snort. Now the big friendless moose walked alone and forlorn, with 4 great big woodpecker holes in his horn. What holes? Whispered Herman, a squirrel who spied 'em. What holes to hide nuts in? Mind if I tried 'em? They're yours, called the woodpecker, get right inside 'em. This big-hearted moose runs a public hotel. Bring your nuts, bring your wife, bring your children as well. So the whole squirrel family all jumped on pell-mell. And the very next thing the poor animal knew, a bobcat and turtle were living there too. Now what was the big-hearted mouse going to do? Well, what would you do if it happened to you? You couldn't say scat, 'cause that wouldn't be right. You couldn't shout scram, 'cause that isn't polite. A host has to put up with all kinds of pests, for a host above all must be nice to his guests. So you'd try hard to smile, and you'd try to look sweet, and you'd go right on looking for moose moss to eat. But now it was winter, and that wasn't easy, for moose moss gets scarce when the weather gets freezy. The food was soon gone on the cold northern shore of Lake Winnebago, there just was no more. And all Thidwick's friends swam away in a bunch to the south of the lake where there's moose moss to munch. He watched the herd leaving, and then Thidwick knew he'd starve if he stayed here, he'd have to go too. He stepped in the water, then oh, what a fuss. Stop, screamed his guests, you can't do this to us. These horns are our home, and you've no right to take our home to the far distant side of the lake. Be fair, Thidwick begged with a lump in his throat. We're fair, said the bug, we'll decide this by vote. All those in favour of going, say A. All those in favour of staying, say nay. A, shouted Thidwick, but when he was done, nay, they all yelled, he lost 11-1. We win, screamed